I'm looking forward to a provocative conversation with everyone. In terms of looking at the future, I think who knows exactly what the future holds for us. I will say that what we're seeing, I think broadly, is brands are getting smarter about how they use digital, and especially we're helping them to get smarter about how to answer the important upstream questions before they start to implement a marketing strategy. A lot of people focus on what they've got to do with the marketing strategy. We're going to do SEO, SEM, we're going to do a campaign on Facebook, we're going to launch an Instagram channel without ever asking the important questions first, which is, what are we trying to accomplish? What territory can we own in this space? Who exactly is our audience? And I think very few of the clients we work with start with a really clear understanding of how their audiences live their lives, what cultural behaviors they have, what are the exact wants and needs, and what do they want to do on the website. I think in digital, too often we're thinking about what we need to say and not often enough about what we need to do. I think digital experiences are if we look at digital experiences as an avenue for marketing to people, we're looking at them in the wrong way. If we look at them as an avenue for people to be able to do the things they want to do, then we're in a better place with that. So, and I think there's growth that can happen in those categories. And I'm going to pass it to Leah because she's next to me on my screen.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. I am Leah, and I thought today I would focus more on B2B. I don't know how many of you are doing much B2B digital marketing or where it kind of falls into your client sphere. But I have found that I have ended up there a lot lately. And in one particular realm around online lead generation, because we went from businesses being able to go out and have coffees and go network in real life to they're stuck at home trying to figure out how to use the internet to get new business. And it's a skill set that a lot of them didn't have. And there's a big knowledge gap that clients today have been seeing. So it's nothing new. And if you are doing B2B, you're like, of course, but there are so many businesses that had not even spent time to begin to figure this out. So as far as predictions and 3 to 5 years type of stuff goes, I really think it comes down to how do we convert and scale trust online? So if so many businesses know how to like close the deal in a one-to-one scenario where they have you on the phone, but if you're doing things digitally, you have to build trust with people in a whole new way. And so really I look at that as such a cool opportunity for us as marketers to kind of take what we're doing, and even in the B2C world, it's the same thing, right? We just talked about it a lot there earlier on with reviews and some of these things where you're like, okay, this brand's really thinking about me in a different way. How do we start to help businesses do this in an ongoing fashion that really can build relationships digitally? And remember that even if they're B2B marketers and selling to businesses, it's a person making that decision at the end of the day. And so what is the customer experience that your website that's trying to sell to a business is creating? Because so many businesses are like, yes, I got my website up. It's a beautiful brochure. And they're like, why aren't I getting on the leads in my contact page? And so I think these types of things as marketing really shifts and leverages online in a different way. Those are the things that get me excited as far as helping people make their businesses stronger and begin to scale digitally. So my prediction is that for B2B marketing space that, account-based marketing, the whole like tie-ins with the CRM system, making your sales and your marketing team actually work together. And when you do get that person on the sales call, you're no longer trying to find out about them. You can already tell what they've downloaded. You can understand how many blogs they've read. You're building that trust and nurturing it earlier. So I just think that's going to get more and more important. And it is tricky when you're dealing with a mid-tier company that doesn't really have they're profitable, they're making $10 to $50 million, but they don't necessarily have a full-on marketing team. And if they do, it's like a couple people, and trying to connect those dots for them. I think that's a big opportunity for us as digital marketers to really get in and help businesses do it well, and remind them of customer experience, and remind businesses that their website's not about them. At the end of the day, it's about their customer and how they're trying to solve their problems. So that's my intro. Gordon, tag, you are it.
Thank you. Kelly and Leah, stole so much of fire. I wouldn't say stole fire, but I couldn't resist not coming prepared with some slides. So if you allow me, I'm going to share a couple of slides that will help facilitate this discussion. Andrew, it might be some topics that will help us talk even further. So bear with me a second. Let me see if I can get this squared away. Okay, so yes, my name is Gordon Saunders, and I just want to share that the views and opinions that I'm about to share with you, these are my own, and they do not necessarily reflect my employer's position. And when I look forward, you look at these trends of where we're happening, something that keeps really resonating with me when I prepared for this was shift happens. And it's going to continue at a much greater pace, especially in the digital arena. I know you've talked a lot in the past. I'm going to talk a little bit about the past, because in order to move forward, kind of got to learn from history. And as I look over my 20 years plus in digital, I've seen some major disruptions that have impacted how we as digital marketers have to react. All the way from Y2K, the dot-com bubble, if people remember that, the financial crisis in 2008, and then most recently, what we're seeing with COVID-19, the pandemic, but also with social injustice and uprising and civil unrest. And when we look at consumers, or better yet, as digital marketers, we see disruption as a time of challenge, solutions, opportunity. We thrive in this environment. But when it comes to consumers, disruption is not always a good thing. It's change. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating, but eventually it leads to adoption and new expectations, which here we are with shift happens. So as Kelly and Leah talked, is really about consumer expectations. If we look at the playbook for the next 3 to 5 years, we're already seeing now this, I call it a hybrid connection, the expectation that, we're all logged into Zoom, whereas we should be in person. Well, going forward, is there going to be the expectation that you have to be in person, but also add that video capability, two-way relationships. We're seeing this today. It's going to become even more important as a company, how you communicate with consumers, but allowing them to communicate back with you, whether it's through self-service or the expectation of seamless experience. If I start on my mobile device and you look at the current trends today, so many people are shopping online. They're doing everything through their mobile devices. They have that expectation that that will continue onto websites. Transparency, reviews and ratings. What are others saying about you? This is very common, obviously, when it comes to purchasing things. Security and ultimately value. So as digital marketers, what do we need to think about? And Leah mentioned this as alignment. How are we aligned as companies? Brand building, what's our position with storytelling, social responsibility? Lead generation is important, but what about how we come across as a brand? And I believe that we're really starting to see an increase even more in this with voice search and just general search, as how do you make sure your brand stands out? As Kelly talked about, is really understanding what does your audience want to do, knowing your audience. And one way to do that is making sure you're dialed into the user experience. Technology is going to play a big role. How does automation as well as various services play? And then analytics and research, knowing your customer. And lastly, as we look at, well, what are the risks that we need to consider and the external threats? You know, there's privacy we're going to have to address. There's this ongoing lens on accessibility, data restrictions, security. What role will cryptocurrencies play as tech starts to become more obsolete? And then social media, for example, today, there's a Stop for Hate boycott on Instagram. How are we as companies going to reply to this? And I think you're definitely in the next 3 to 5 years going to see greater need and interest in focusing on some of these areas.
Thank you. Yeah,
Fabulous.
Gordon and Leah and Kelly, you guys nailed it. Gordon, I counted 21 predictions. And
I know, I'm like floored.
Well, it's really
so
one
you guys-
prediction. Shift happens, and
Yeah.
we're all going to have to adopt to it, but there's all these various elements that we have to consider with trying to deal with shift and how quickly that occurs.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think kind of the tone I'm getting for today is just change in general, which we're all used to.